Hi everyone and welcome back to Mastering SQL from Basic to Advanced. This is our fifth class and in this video we will see about data control language. So far we have seen about data definition language, data manipulation language and data query language and some commands under it with their practical examples. So if you want to see how DDL, DML and DQL language works, you can refer the historical video in the same series. Now, let's try to understand what is data control language. So, data control language is used to control the access to the data stored inside a database. We know that we store a lot of data into a database in the form of tables. Now, there is a situation where you want to limit the access of certain data to some particular users. So, in that case, you will be using the commands of data control language. So, in data control language, there are two commands. The first is the grant, and another one is the revoke command. So, grant command is used to give access of certain particular things, and revoke command is used to take the access back. Now, let us try to understand this in more detail with a simple example. All right, consider yourself working in a data team of any e-commerce and your company has lot of databases and consider this is one of the database of your organization. This database is having three tables. Table 1 is having information related to the sales, like whatever is being sold on your website. Table 2 is having information related to the product. So, what are the different products being sold? So, their complete information is in this table 2. And table 3 is having information related to the end user that we called as an personal information. So, this information includes like email, phone number, and address. So this kind of information is being stored in this particular table and we called it as an personal information. Now an intern has joined your team and your manager has asked to give the access of this database to this intern so that he can understand the things. Now you know that to give access of any particular database or any particular table, you have to use the commands of data control language. And we know that in data control language, there are two commands. That is, one is grant command and another one is revoke command. Now to give the access, you will be using the grant command. Now let us practically see how you will use this grant command to give access to the particular user. Now, before we move to the workbench, let us understand one more thing that since this intern has joined your organization, first you will have to create a user in MySQL for this particular intern and then only you will be able to give access of this particular database on that user. So we will see how to create an user in MySQL and then we will see how to give access of any database or any table to that user. So let's go to the workbench and see how practically it works. Okay, so we are back on our workbench and let us first see how to create a new user. To create a new user, click on the administration part on the left side. So on the left side, you will see an administration button. Click on that. Then here you will see user and privileges. Click on this, a new tab will open and here you will find the information of existing users. So while installation time we created a root user, so the information of that root user is available here. Now to create a new user, just click on add account and here you will find the option to create that user. So login name you can give as per your requirement. I'll keep this as it is as new user because this is just a test user we are creating. Authentication and all this information will be as it is by default. Then one thing you'll have to set is the password. So if you remember, while creating the root user, we created a password for that. In the same way, you'll have to create a new password for this new user. So just create one password for this, then confirm the password and click apply. Now you can see that in this panel, the new user is visible. This means that we have successfully created a new user. Now close this tab. So the user has been successfully created, but to interact with the database, we need to create a connection with MySQL server using that particular user. So to create a connection with MySQL, click on this home tab, and in this MySQL connection, click on this plus icon. Now here add the connection name. So connection name you can add as per your requirement. I am just adding a test connection. Now, when you will go to the username part, here you will have to add the name of the user which you created. So in my case, it was new user, and in password, you'll have to add the password you just created for that particular user. So add the password here, then click on OK, and then click on test connection. You will see that successfully made the MySQL connection, and click on OK. Now, in MySQL connection, you will find two connections, one with the name of root user and another with the name of new user. Now, click on the second connection we just created and open it. Now, here you won't find any type of schema or anything because this is just the fresh user which we created. So if you remember, in the root user, we had one database with the name of test and some tables inside this test database. Now let us try to access that test database using the user which we just created. Now we know that to access any particular database, we need to run a command called as use and the name of that particular database. So I'll run use test because that is the name of my database. So use test and just run this, and you will see that an error code has arrived in the message that access denied for user new user to the database test. What does this mean? This simply means that the user which we created is not having access to this particular database. Now we will see how to give access of this database and its table to this particular user. So to give access, you know that we will be using a grant command. So let us see how practically grant command works. So to provide the access, we will go back to the root user, and here we will write grant all privileges on the database name. In my case, the name of the database is test. So test, then 2, and here we will write the username. So in my case, the username is new user. Remember that the username should be passed in single quotes. So here we will write new user. In your case, whatever the username you have created, you will write that. Single quotes complete. And now when we will run this command, the new user will get the access of test database. So if we will run this, you'll see that the command has successfully run and 0 rows affected. This means the new user now has the access of test database. So if we will go back to the test connection, and here now when we will run this use test, this will successfully run. So let us run this again, and you can see that 0 rows affected. The command has successfully run. So if you remember, first it was giving an error called as access denied, and now it has successfully run for the test database. You also know that in the test database, we also had one table with the name of new underscore students. So now let us see whether this person can access that table or not, because we have given the access of database. So to check whether this person can access the tables present inside this or not, we can simply write show tables. And now when we will run this command, in the output, you will see that no tables to show. This means that the person can access the database, but it cannot access the tables present inside that database. So you will have to separately give to the access of some tables. So let us go back to our root user to give access of that particular table. For that, we will write, first I will remove this. Now we will write grant select on, then the table name new underscore students, then 2, and in single quote the username. So here the username is new user. Now when we will run this command, you can see that it has successfully run and 0 rows affected. So now let us go back to the test database, and now when we will run this show tables command, so in the output, you can see that new student table is visible. So in this way, you can give the access of tables and access of database to any new user. So now you might be thinking that what if there are more than one table present inside the database, and how we will give the access of all the tables to that particular user. So in that case, you can provide the access of all tables to that particular user in just one single command. You do not need to write the same command again and again for each and individual table. So for this, what we will do, we will simply create another sample database and quickly add 2-3 tables into it, and then we'll see practically how we can quickly give access of all the tables within one single command. So for this, we will go back to our root user, and here we will create a new database and quickly create 2-3 tables under it. So I will remove this, and you all know how to create a new database. So we will write create database, and the name of that database, let's say test2. And when we will run this, you can see that database test2 has been successfully created. Just by refreshing the schemas, you can see that test2 is created. Now we will run another command, use test2, so that we can do the table creation part in this particular database. So let us run this. Now, whatever the things we will do will be stored in the test2 database. So in this, we will create 3 new tables as discussed in our example, that is sales, product, and the personal information. So let us create the sales table first. So for this, we will write create table and the table name as sales, and then open bracket, we will add one temporary column into it as sales directly, and the data type of this column as int, and we will close the bracket. So here we are temporarily creating a sales table with the column name sales and integer as its data type. So when we will run this, you will see that the sales table has successfully created. In the similar manner, we will create product table and the personal information table. So here we will quickly change sales to product, and in the column part also. And now when we will run this, the product table will be created. And in the similar manner, we will change it for personal information. So these are just sample tables we are creating, so we do not need to worry about the structure and the data type. So let us create this one. Now you can see that all the 3 tables have successfully created. To check whether these tables are created or not, we can simply run a command called as show tables. And now you can see that personal information, product, and sales table have successfully created. Now our next job is to provide the access of this all these tables to the new user in one single go. So in the last part, we have seen that providing the access of database first and then providing the access of table. Now here, if anybody wants to provide the access of all the tables of particular database, let us see how he can do that. So before that, quickly check whether this person is able to access the test2 database or not. We know that since we created the database just right now, this person will not be able to use it, but let us confirm by writing use test2. And when we will run this, you can see that access denied for the user. This means that the database which we created just now, the new user cannot access this. So let us go back to the root user and provide the access of database and all the tables in just one single command. So for this, we will write grant all privileges on database name. So the database name is test2, and here we will write dot star. This dot star means that the person will able to access every single thing which is listed inside this database. So whatever the tables have been created inside the test2 database, the person will directly able to access all the tables without any special command or without giving the access one by one. So here we will complete the command by writing to and the username. So the username is new user, and we will complete the code. Now, when we will run this command in just one single go, the new user will be having access of all the tables which are present inside this test2 database. So let's run this. Now you can see that 0 rows affected. This means that the access have been given to the new user. Now let us go back to the test connection and see whether this is successfully run or not. So here we will run this use test2. Now you can see that we can access the test2 database. So to check whether we have the access of all the three tables created under this test2 database or not, we will simply run show tables. And so this is the example which we were discussing earlier, and in this example you gave the access of database to the new intern using a grant command. Now you realize that there is a table inside this database which holds the personal and critical information of the end user. So you do not want to expose such personal and critical information to the new intern. So you decided to take the control of that particular table from that user. So now what you have to do is that you will keep the access of sales table and product table to that user, and you will take back the access of personal information from that user. So how you can do this? You can simply use a revoke command for this. So revoke command is used to take the access back from any particular user. Now let us see practically how revoke command works. So for this, let's go to our workbench. So here we are on our workbench, and to revoke access for any particular user for any particular table, we will write revoke select on. Then here we will specify the table name. So test2.py, that means the personal information table is present in test2 database, and then here we will write from the username. So in my case the username is new user. Now remember that while giving the access we were writing to new user, and while revoking the access or while taking the access back we will write from the username. So now let us run this command. So you can see that 0 rows affected. This means that this command has successfully run and the access have been revoked. So now let us go to our test connection and check whether the access have been successfully revoked or not. So here we are back on our test connection. Now let us see whether the person can access the personal information table or not. Select star from pi. So this is our table. We'll write select star from pi and let us run this. Now after running this, you might got an error that select command denied to user new user. This means that the access have been revoked from the particular user for this table. So in this way, using revoke command, you can take the control or take the access back for any particular user for any database or any table. Now I hope everybody has a clear understanding how does an grant command works and how does an revoke command works. So basically this is all about the data control language. So in data control language we have two commands. One is used to give access or to give the privileges, and the another one is to take the access. So this will be all for today's class, and let us connect in the next class for some other SQL commands. So thank you so much everyone, and let's connect in the next class.